Welcome to today's explainer. Let's just jump right into it. Think about your absolute most boring subject, the one that literally makes you want to take a nap just looking at the textbook. We all have one, right? Well, today we're flipping the script. We're diving into a masterclass on how to drastically boost your focus and, believe it or not, make studying genuinely addictive. We're going to cover 6 very specific psychological hacks today. And honestly, stick around for hack number 4, because that trick alone is credited with taking someone's study focus from a measly 10 minutes to a full unbroken 2 hours of deep work. So you might be wondering, can your brain actually release dopamine without endlessly scrolling Instagram or TikTok? It sounds kind of crazy, right? We're so used to our phones feeding us those instant feel-good chemicals that we just assume digital devices own a monopoly on our attention. But here's the real secret to making your brain a massive fan of studying. It doesn't need a screen at all. Your brain just needs to expect that something fun or rewarding is coming. If we can teach it that the process of studying leads directly to a positive outcome, intense focus just naturally follows. Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our roadmap for the explainer today. 1. Unlocking the dopamine secret. 2. Engineering your study environment. 3. Hacking the start and momentum. 4. Reprogramming the boring subjects. And finally, 5. Your big brain shift. Phase 1. Unlocking the dopamine secret. Let's tackle exactly why studying usually feels so incredibly painfully boring for most of us. This is the foundational science we have to understand, and it's absolutely crucial. Dopamine is released on expectation, not results. Look at it from an evolutionary standpoint. Our brains are wired to release dopamine when we anticipate a reward. It's literally what motivated our ancestors to go out and hunt. It's an anticipatory chemical that drives the pursuit of a goal. The problem with studying is that the reward, the good grades, the degree, the career, is months or even years away. The brain simply cannot wait that long. But the science tells us that if your brain expects a small reward is coming right after a study session, it actually gets happy, motivated, and highly focused in advance. And this brilliantly illustrates our very first hack, the dopamine loop trick. It's super simple. You do your study session, and then you immediately, and I mean immediately, follow it with a small, guaranteed treat. Maybe you brew a nice cup of tea, allow yourself to watch just one short reel, or even take a quick 10-minute nap. By deliberately giving yourself that treat right after, you're teaching your brain a new, unbreakable rule. Hard work equals a reward. Once your basal ganglia, that's the habit center of your brain, figures that out, it actually starts craving the study session because it wants that reward at the end. That is exactly how you get addicted to the process. Moving right along to phase 2, engineering your study environment. Let's see how this plays out in your physical space. This brings us to a concept called environmental anchoring. Basically, it's the practice of linking a specific physical space exclusively with a specific mindset. Look, if you try to study in the exact same spot where you sleep, your brain gets insanely mixed signals. It looks at the bed and says, wait, this is where we rest. Why are you making me do math right now? It creates enormous cognitive friction. You end up fighting your own biology just to read a single page. Having a dedicated, exclusive zone just for studying is absolutely non-negotiable for boosting focus because it completely eliminates that internal tug-of-war. To forge this powerful anchor, you've got to be ridiculously consistent. You need to use the same chair, the same lighting, and the exact same vibe every single time you sit down for deep work. When you do this, the physical act of sitting in that specific spot immediately signals your nervous system. Your brain literally goes, oh, okay, it's focus time, and automatically shifts gears into a state of concentration. It dramatically reduces your cognitive load. You aren't relying on sheer willpower anymore. You're letting your architecture do the heavy lifting for you. Phase 3, hacking the start and momentum. Now, let's talk about that horrible, heavy feeling of just not wanting to start. This is hack number 3, and it revolves entirely around the number 5, the 5-minute momentum rule. When you are feeling completely unmotivated, overwhelmed, or just paralyzed by procrastination, just tell yourself you're going to study for exactly 5 minutes. Set an alarm on your phone. You're lowering the barrier to entry so much that your brain can't even logically object to it, and what happens next is practically magic. By tricking your brain into just turning the key and starting the engine, you overcome that massive hurdle of initial activation energy. When that 5-minute alarm finally goes off, you'll probably realize you don't actually want to stop. Which leads perfectly to this powerful truth. Starting is hard, continuing is easy. Getting over that initial hump really is everything. Humans are psychologically wired to want to finish tasks they've already started. Psychologists actually call this the Zeigarnik effect. Once you overcome the initial friction of starting, your brain's natural momentum takes over. The task morphs from a looming mountain into just a normal sequence of logical steps. Just push yourself for 5 minutes and watch how your brain naturally grabs the steering wheel and pulls you forward. Now this brings us to hack 4, the progress bar effect. This is the exact hack that boosted focus from 10 minutes to a solid 2 hours. You know how apps like Duolingo, YouTube, or even food delivery apps keep you hooked? They intentionally use visual progress bars to hack your dopamine system. A little green line or a 70% complete notification gives you visual feedback that makes your brain deeply crave completion. And you can absolutely engineer this into your own study routine. Create a physical visual tracker for your chapters. Every time you finish a section, put a massive tick mark next to it. Seeing that visual progress directly and instantly ramps up your motivation. Your brain sees those ticks adding up and goes, come on, let's just finish one more. Phase 4, reprogramming the boring subjects. Time to face those dreadful subjects that put you right to sleep. In our source material, the creator mentioned that math used to be this exact hurdle for them, right up until they implemented Hack 5. This is the incredible power of reframing. When you look at a difficult subject and say, I hate this, your brain literally perceives the task as a threat. The amygdala fires up, stress hormones are released, and your creative problem solving just completely shuts down. But if you reframe it and simply say to yourself, interesting, even if you literally have to fake it at first, your brain suddenly sees a challenge instead of a threat. The prefrontal cortex engages. Curiosity is the true sustainable fuel for dopamine. Treat your absolute most boring subjects like a video game, where every tough concept is just a new level you have to beat to level up your own intelligence. Now, what's really fascinating about this concept is how it introduces Hack 6, which is essentially the ultimate cheat code for studying consistency: temptation bundling. You're purposefully linking a painful or boring task directly with a highly enjoyable activity. This intentionally confuses the brain. It doesn't know if it's having a great time or working incredibly hard, and that neurological confusion keeps you completely locked in. By pairing the high dopamine reward with a low dopamine task, you average them out into a state of sustained productive flow. So how do you apply this seamlessly? Try pairing your most boring revision with your absolute favorite lo-fi playlist. Or, as the creator from our source shared, pair a really tedious subject with listening to sports commentary in the background. But here is the massive secret to making this work: exclusivity. You are only allowed to listen to that special, favorite playlist when you are studying that specific boring subject. If you listen to it anywhere else, the hack completely breaks. By making the reward exclusive to the hard work, your brain will literally start craving the difficult study session just to get access to the music. Phase 5, your big brain shift. We've covered a ton of ground today, exploring exactly how these 6 hacks boost focus, and it's time to pull all of this together. All right, here is your ultimate study toolkit. We've got the dopamine loop, environmental anchoring, the 5-minute momentum, the progress bar effect, reframing, and temptation bundling. Honestly, take a quick screenshot of this list right now. Seriously, snap a pic and keep this handy. Whenever you feel your focus slipping or procrastination creeping in, check this list and deploy just one of these strategies to get right back on track. So I'll leave you with this final thought. Which hack will make you addicted to studying today? Remember, every massive upgrade in your daily habits starts with just one small, actionable change. Pick just one of these techniques from our explainer today, try it out the very next time you sit down to work, and kickstart your big brain shift. If you are ready to completely change how you learn, drop the phrase "addicted to studying" in the comments below. Thanks for learning with us, and we'll catch you in the next one.